She had always been a ghost, even before the bullets started flying. Her name was Anya, and for the last 12 years, her life had been a masterclass in silence. Raised in the remote, wind-swept highlands of a country that had known nothing but war for generations, she learned to track mountain lions before she learned to read. Her father, a former resistance fighter with one lung and a heart full of unyielding fire, had taught her the only truth he knew. Survival belonged to the one who could wait the longest and move the quietest. Now that truth had led her here, to a rooftop in the shattered heart of the city, staring through a scope at a world made of shadow and dust. The city, once a bustling metropolis, was now a carcass picked clean by warring factions. The conflict had dragged on for 3 years, a brutal, intimate kind of fighting where the front line was defined not by trenches, but by which building you could safely run across to get to the next. Anya fought for the Home Guard, a ragtag collection of locals, farmers, and city workers who had decided they would rather die in their own homes than flee. They were outgunned, out-trained, and outmanned by the separatist forces, a well-funded militia with foreign weapons and hired advisors. Tonight, the separatists had brought in their deadliest asset, a SEAL. His name was Commander Marcus Thorne, and he was a legend in the shadowy world of private military contracting. A former United States Navy SEAL with 2 decades of experience and more confirmed kills than anyone in the company's database, he had been hired to break the back of the Home Guard's resistance. For the past week, and his presence had been a death sentence. He and his team of 4 other elite operators had systematically dismantled the Guard's defensive positions. Snipers on rooftops, the Guard's only real advantage, were found with their throats cut. Patrols simply vanished. Morale was crumbling. Anya had been observing them for 3 days from a collapsed department store. She knew their patterns, their confidence, their swagger. They moved through the city like they owned it, their sophisticated gear a stark contrast to her faded fatigues and the bolt-action rifle her father had used in a war 30 years prior. The confrontation happened on the 4th night. Anya was repositioning, crawling through the rubble of a bombed-out school, when she heard voices. She froze, pressing herself into the shadow of a fallen concrete beam. Through a gap in the debris, she saw them. 5 men dressed in multi-cam gear, their faces smeared with camouflage paint. They were standing in the shell of a classroom, the moonlight filtering through the destroyed roof illuminating them like actors on a stage. Thorne was in the center, a bear of a man with a Lengku-ness in his eyes that was visible even from 50 meters away. He was addressing his team, his voice a low, calm rumble that carried clearly in the still night air. "The resistance is broken," he said, tapping a tablet showing a satellite image of the city. "They've got maybe 24 fighters left, scattered, low on ammo. They're banking on their rooftop snipers to slow us down for the dawn offensive. It's their only play." He pointed to a cluster of buildings near the city's central square. "Say, we take these positions out tonight. We move quiet, we move fast. These people are amateurs. They can't handle the pressure. Remember, snipers rule the night." A younger operator, eager and taut as a wire, grinned. "Like shooting fish in a barrel." Another man, checking his night vision goggles, spoke up. "Intel says they might have one good one, a woman. Locals call her the Mountain Ghost. Supposedly she's been at this since she was a kid." Thorne scoffed, a short, sharp sound devoid of humor. He looked directly at the man who had spoken. "A woman? From some backwoods militia? Please, she's probably hiding in a basement, crying. Look, I've fought all over the world. I've trained the best. Marksmanship is about discipline, about controlling your fear, about understanding the science of the shot. It's about owning the night. But these people, they don't own the night. They just survive it. There's a difference." His eyes scanned the darkness, and for a terrifying second, Anya felt them pass right over her hiding spot. He continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that was somehow more chilling than his bravado. "Snipers rule the night. Not you. Not some farmer with a hunting rifle. Us. We are the predators. She is the prey, and by sunrise, she'll be just another body in the rubble. The words hit Anya like a physical blow. It wasn't the threat that stung. It was the dismissal, the utter contempt. In his world, she wasn't even an enemy worth hating. She was a nuisance, a joke. He had reduced her entire life, her father's sacrifices, the deaths of her friends, the burning city around her, to punchline. She lay there for a long time after they moved on, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. The fear was a cold, familiar weight in her stomach. But beneath it, something else was kindling. A slow, burning anger. It wasn't a hot, reckless rage. It was the cold, hard flame of resolve. It was the same feeling she'd had as a 12-year-old girl tracking a wounded mountain lion that had been killing their sheep, knowing that if she missed, it would kill her. She hadn't missed. She thought about her father's last words to her before he died. Not from a bullet, but from the sickness that had rotted his remaining lung. "The mountain does not boast," he had whispered, his voice a dry rasp. "It simply is, and in its silence it endures all things. Be the mountain, Anya." Thorn and his men thought they were the predators, the rulers of the night. But they were wrong. The night didn't have rulers. It had inhabitants, and the most dangerous inhabitants were not the loudest, but the ones who had learned to be part of its silence. He had called her prey. He had declared that snipers ruled the night, and she was not one of them. She would prove him wrong, not with words, with silence. Anya didn't go back to her unit's command post. She knew they would try to talk her out of it, to tell her to wait for a better opportunity. There was no better opportunity. Thorn and his team were planning to hunt them tonight. The only way to survive was to hunt the hunters first. She had less than 6 hours until sunrise. She had 9 targets. She began by becoming the most dangerous thing in a war zone, a patient ghost with a plan. I was lightly guarded, manned by 2 local was lightly guarded, manned by 2 local separatist soldiers who treated the job as a boring necessity, while Thorn's men did the real work. Anya moved through the back alleys, a study in controlled motion. She didn't run. Running caused noise, caused haste, caused mistakes. She flowed from shadow to shadow, her footsteps as silent as falling ash. Reaching the bank, she found a 3rd-story window that had been blown out, offering a clear, angled view of the bank's main floor and the vault door, which was propped open. The 2 guards were inside, playing cards by the light of a portable lamp, their rifles leaning against the wall. They were talking and laughing. Yes, their voices echoing in the marble hall. It was almost too easy. Almost. Anya had a rule. Never take a shot you don't absolutely need, but she needed them silent. She needed their radio to stop working. Waiting for a moment when they were both in her crosshairs, she exhaled and squeezed the trigger. The suppressed crack of her rifle was swallowed by the vast empty space of the city. 2 shots, 2 seconds apart. The first guard slumped forward onto the card table. The second never even had time to turn his head. The night went quiet again. She had just cut off Thorn's voice. He could no longer call for help, for intel, for extraction. He was now operating in her world, alone. Her next target was the young, eager operator she had seen with Thorn. He had positioned himself as an overwatch on a water tower, decovering the approach to the central square. He was good, she noted. He had a full 360-degree view and was using a high-end thermal scope. But he was also predictable. He scanned in a pattern, a clockwise rotation that took exactly 47 seconds to complete. Anya had watched him for an hour from a drainage ditch, timing his scans. In the 40-second mark of his cycle, she made her move. She slithered through the tall, dry grass at the base of the water tower, her body flat against the earth. She reached the ladder just as his scan brought him back to the north. She knew he wouldn't look down. Professionals looked out, at the horizon, at the buildings, at the threat level. They rarely looked straight down, right under their nose. She climbed, her movements deliberate, placing each foot on the rung with the care of someone walking on eggshells. As his scan moved to the west, her head and shoulders cleared the platform. He was 5 feet away, his back to her, his eye pressed to the scope. She could have shot him, but the sound, however suppressed, might travel in the dead air. Instead, she used the knife her father had given her. It was quick, silent, and merciful. He never knew what ended his watch. She gently lowered his body to the platform so it wouldn't fall and create a noise. One down. Dawn was still hours away. Thorne and his 2 remaining men were somewhere in the city, hunting for ghosts. Now, the ghost was hunting them. She found the second operator by accident. She was crossing a narrow alley when she heard a faint click. The sound of a radio being keyed, but no voice following. A mistake. She backtracked and found him in a ground-floor apartment, his back to a window, peering out through a curtain. He was waiting in ambush, hoping to catch a guard patrol at dawn. He was so focused on the street ahead, he forgot the darkness behind him. Anya slipped through a broken cellar window, moved through the pitch-black basement, and emerged from a stairwell 10 feet behind him. He was a professional, and his instincts were sharp. He must have sensed something, a change in the air, a whisper of sound. He started to turn, his rifle coming up. He was fast, but she was already in motion. She didn't give him time to aim. Her first shot, from the hip, caught him in the side, spinning him. Her second, as he fell, was to the head. 2 more. The silence held. That left Thorne and his last man. The clock was ticking, and the eastern sky was beginning to show the faintest hint of gray, a pre-dawn lightness that would soon erase the shadows she relied on. She needed to find them before they found her. She knew where they would be. The central square. It was the tactical key to the city. Whoever controlled the square controlled the main supply route. Thorne would be there, waiting to spring his trap on the guard's sunrise patrol. He would be in the most advantageous position, the one with the best lines of sight and the most difficult access. The municipal building. It was a grand 6-story structure from the old days, with a columned facade and a roof that offered a panoramic view of the entire square. It was the sniper's nest. It was exactly where she would have gone. And it was where he would be, confident in his dominance, and waiting to prove that he ruled the night. Getting into the building was the hardest part of the entire night. Thorne's last man was good, really good. He was positioned in a church bell tower across the square, providing covering fire for the municipal building. He had the entire facade covered. Any move Anya made in the open would be her last. She had to go underground, the city's old sewer system. It was a foul, dangerous place, filled with filth and God knows what else, but it ran directly under the square and had a maintenance hatch in the basement of the municipal building. She found an entrance 4 blocks away and descended into the stench. The darkness was absolute. She felt her way along the slick walls, her boots splashing in the shallow, toxic water. Rats squeaked and scurried around her. She moved slowly, patiently. Her mind focused on the steps above, counting her way. It took her an hour to travel those 4 blocks. When she finally found the ladder leading up to the maintenance hatch, her muscles were screaming with fatigue and her lungs burned from the foul air. But she was there. She was inside. She emerged into the building's basement, a labyrinth of old boiler rooms and storage closets. She could hear nothing but the thumping of her own heart. She began to climb. Stairs, not the elevator. Elevators were death traps. Floor by floor she ascended, her rifle held at the ready, her senses stretched to their absolute limit. On the 5th floor landing she paused. She heard a sound, a soft footstep, directly above her on the stairs.